My name is Kevin, and I'll be talking about an inspirational personal experience, the Blue Jays 2015 season. So I'm going to start off with a question. How would you feel if your favorite sports team did not make the playoffs for 22 years? Probably not so great, but that's exactly what happened to me as my favorite sports team went on a 22-year drought from the playoffs. And starting the 2015 MLB season, the Blue Jays were in the middle of the longest playoff drought by any professional North American sports team. And going into the season, things were looking to be more of the same thing. Predictions. Before the season, experts had predicted the Blue Jays would come in the third place behind the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees. It was predicted that they would be just above 500 with 82 wins and 80 losses. Prior to the season, fans, including me, had low expectations for the season. Now, injuries. We had to deal with a lot of injuries as well. Prior to the season, uh, Michael Saunders tore his cartilage in his left knee, and Marcus Stroman tore his anterior cruciate ligament in his left knee, and both expected to be out for the entire season. For the first half of the season, the Blue Jays won an impressive 11 straight games, tying a franchise record. They also moved 20-year-old Roberto Osuna to the role of the closer, and unfortunately, we faced another injury with Devin Travis, and we went into the All-Star break just below 500 at 45-46. Now, my outlook at the season up until this point, I attended a few games live as a fan and watched the Jays regularly on TV. We definitely had an exciting team to watch as we hit a lot of home runs, but as a fan, we knew that there was a lot of things that we lacked, such as pitching. And furthermore, my expectations were squandered by the multiple injuries we had to important players on the team. And unless something drastically changed, like a trade, I was prepared for another mediocre season. Now, game-changing trades. Before the trade deadline after the All-Star season, the Blue Jays traded for shortstop Troy Tulowitzki and reliever Troy Hawkins. They also traded for ace pitcher David Price. They also acquired Ben Revere from the Philadelphia Phillies, and these acquisitions would prove to be game-changing for the Blue Jays. Now, in August 12th of 2015, the Blue Jays won another 11 games in a row, and they began a tight back-and-forth race with the New York Yankees, trying to fight for that American League Division title. The new acquisitions of David Price and Troy Tulowitzki would propel the Jays to a record of 63 wins and 52 losses, and Jays had hope of making the postseason. Now, Marcus Stroman makes his return. This is an inspirational part for me, where Marcus Stroman suffered an injury and was supposed to be out for the entire season, but he made a comeback after working relentlessly and helped the Blue Jays win games against the New York Yankees and others. This was definitely inspirational, as we all expected him not to be on the mound, but to see him out there pitching after suffering such a horrible injury was definitely uplifting for me. Regular season summary. The Blue Jays would finish with a 93-69 record, clinching the American League East title, and they would also define themselves as an offensive juggernaut, hitting the most home runs in the league. Our third baseman Josh Donaldson also won MVP, and the Jays finally end their 22 drought and prepare to face the Texas Rangers in American League Division Series. Now, the Jays also had turned things around and became a great, exciting team to watch. They were also the turnaround was also motivating for me, and it made me watch multiple games live. It was also inspiring for me because I decided to pick up the sport as well and to join leagues and to play baseball myself. The Blue Jays still had a lot of things to do, and they could have potentially won the World Series. To do that, they have to first get through the Texas Rangers, and in the first round, and we all the fans had high expectations because it was a long time after being in a 22-year drought. Unfortunately, the Blue Jays would go on to lose 2 games to none and that meaning one more loss and the season would be over. Now, on the road and with their backs against the wall, the Blue Jays would then go on to win two in a row, tying the series 2 games each. Now, game 5, which is the deciding game. Whoever wins this would go on and win the entire series. The Blue Jays started off slow and scored 2 runs off a Bautista double and an Encarnacion home run. And going into the 7th, things were tied, and that's when the Blue Jays were tested with a controversial play. Now, in the controversial play, what happened was the other team scored a run off of an error from our players, and it was definitely a confusing error. The umpires did not expect it, but um, it was just sort of a unfortunate event for us because that allowed the opponent to go up 3-2 when it really wasn't our fault. But we had to play through it. And upon multiple errors by the Rangers, the Blue Jays had runners on the corners, and Bautista delivered a 3-run home run and extended the lead with a score of 6-3. They would complete the comeback, coming back from 2-0 and win the ALDS. They would now prepare to play against the Kansas City Royals. Now, in the ALCS, they would play the Kansas City Royals, and after a hard-fought series, they would lose 4-2. But their resiliency and strength showed throughout the playoffs. Now, my outlook on the season. Overall, it was an amazing season. The Blue Jays went above and beyond my expectations, ultimately losing a tough season to the eventual Kansas City Royals. The season inspired me to never give up when my back is against the wall, just like the Blue Jays when they faced the Rangers and were down 2-0, and one more loss would have meant their entire season would have been wasted. They still never gave up and came back 2-0. That is definitely inspirational for me, and whenever I face tough times, I look back at that time and I think of how they had to deal with it and how they were able to bounce back, just like how I can bounce back and be resilient in whatever I do. Um, and to also inspire me to pick up the sport of baseball. I now regularly play catch with my friends and family, um, and it's definitely a sport integrated into my life, something that I enjoy doing. Thank you for watching my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it inspiring. And I that's everything. Thank you.